All right, we are live. Happy Monday. Hey, Jenna.
Hey, how's it going?
I am doing well. I think pretty good position. Stuck at home in quarantine. And I mean, if everybody watching live, you guys are all obviously in the same position. But if you're catching the replay, we're in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic that has left us all indoors. And so naturally, we're exploring the great indoors with some cask strength whiskey.
Yeah, not a bad way to explore the great indoors. I can think of far worse things to be doing indoors than, getting cozy with some of these amazing casks. So I'm excited for today, though.
Yeah, I'm on like
Outturn day. It's so exciting. It's like Christmas. It's like Christmas morning. You get to wake up. You don't know what's going to be under the tree, and so I kind of feel like it's like Christmas. I get really excited for Outturn day. Even mid-month Outturn day, I get excited for it. So,
well, Merry Christmas to everybody who's watching. We're about to embark on a festive
Christmas in April. Just bring some joy. I almost put Christmas music on the other day too because I was kind of like feeling a little sad and blue, and Christmas music makes me feel happy. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do that when this is all over with.
Today is also a certain type of holiday called 420 for those who partake, which is now a legal festive holiday in a lot of states. But maybe that's for a different tasting for a different group of geeks. Yes. But this one, so anyway, well, first of all, welcome. I just catching in. Whiskey Throttle, I know you were the first one. So just screaming Canada Pride, welcome. If you're still in, Tom, is it 5 p.m.? It is right now, Eastern time, 5 p.m. Dram session, good to see you back. It says, hello, whiskey people. Hello, whiskey people on a Monday. Justin Izzo, hi, everyone. Adam Fay, hi, chat. Hello, Adam. Everybody in the chat, say hi to Adam. Let's drink whiskey. Hey, folks, good to see you. Tom Smith. Of course, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. I don't know who the kitten is. I'll take that one.
You're definitely the kitten.
I'm the kitten.
You're definitely the kitten.
6'5", freakishly tall kitten. But anyway, Let's Drink Whiskey says 95.31 in my glass. What's the name of that one offhand? I try to remember the names as well, but glad to see someone's with us already. Charles says, is that Tom Smith? That is the Tom Smith, the hater of all things social media, except for when it comes to whiskey YouTube tastings. He's all about it. Tom is senior director of the Scotland Whiskey Society of America, so I think a lot of members would know Tom for hosting various events throughout the East Coast, and beyond the East Coast at times, but wears many hats here. Dramcraft, hey y'all, Carrie Baldwin, hey peeps, good to see you. Pickly Dew, I love that one. Hello from DC. Okay.
Pickly Dew.
Well, anyway, we'll keep going with the comments. First of all, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Jenna's going to lead us through this tasting. I'm sort of just going to play the role of getting to sit back and relax. No, I'm kidding. We'll be tasting together, but I don't know. What do we have in store today, Jenna?
So we have 4 different whiskeys. So tomorrow is our mid-month Outturn preview, or mid-month Outturn. This is the actual Outturn preview tasting. And so we're releasing a small handful of casks tomorrow just to, hold you over until our next one in May. There's some really fun casks coming out tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So same time as our regular Outturn. So 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so we're just going to kind of cruise through 4 of them today to give you an idea of, what's in store since we can't, be with you in person to share these whiskeys with you. We're going to do our best to describe them, as we can to, give you an idea of what they're like. So, and to answer any questions that you have. So at any time, if you have any questions during any of this, just chime in the little chat box, and I'll make my assistant Ben here get to those. So
the kidding.
All right. So
if I could just to add too, if you guys are wondering, because I realize we forget this as we're in it. I think it can get confusing at times that at the first Tuesday of every month we have our main Outturn. So the 12 main Outturns, and we release a bunch of whiskeys. Then the third Tuesday of the month, sort of staggered, we have a smaller selection. That's what we call the mid-month Outturn. So just to clear up any confusion as to when it was the Outturn, you just had an Outturn a couple of weeks ago. This is sort of a mid-month, and we pull, they're all special whiskeys, but a selection of casks. And so smaller selection will be coming back because you guys keep wanting us to do these live Outturn tastings. So whatever, it's, you seem to enjoy it. So we're not going to stop with them. So anyway, that's where we're at. So taste along with something if you'd like.
Are you ready for?
Yeah. So I have 4 here. So which one? What's the order here?
So
which one are we
we're
starting
going
with?
to jump in with the first one's going to be 1.216.
All right. So this is revealed to the world, I guess, for the first time ever. 1.216.
I haven't poured one yet. So, Serial Killer, this is an 8-year Speyside first fill ex bourbon. So this will be the first one. So I haven't poured mine yet. So
should we just reveal them as we go along, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, since we can't really do it blind like we normally would, if we were in person.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, we'll reveal the first one and then maybe the next one we'll taste it without saying it and then we'll say it. Or I don't know, we can, I used to put these cute little skirts, little kilts on my bottles at tasting so people couldn't see what they were, but I'm out of kilts, so.
I like that. So Serial Killer, 1.216. Not a lot of ones that we see often. Obviously, one is the first distillery that the society ever bought a cask from.
This is our 216th cask that we have bottled from our first love of a distillery. So we'll taste it and then I'll read the tasting notes and we'll just kind of cruise through that way.
All right.
Don't like plan?
Yeah. So what? So Serial Killer.
Serial Killer.
All right. First one. So.
Whew.
8 years old. So I'm looking here. 8 years old. April 2011 distillation. 59.3%. I'm just holding it.
Yeah.
Color. This is obviously 8-year-old first fill bourbon barrel, which it's pretty different from the last one. The last cask from Distillery 1 we had recently was different. That was a sherry cask, right? For the most part. So this is very different.
And this is in our spicy and dry flavor profile. And lately, this particular flavor profile has really surprised me. I think I've been the most surprised by this particular flavor profile. So I haven't tasted this yet. I haven't tasted any of these yet. So I saved it for today, like I would in person. So I'm excited to taste it. So.
All right. Well, cheers, everybody. Happy Monday. We'll come back in a moment with our little feedback. So, Death by Cereal.
Death by Cereal. What is your favorite cereal, by the way? This kind? This one?
This one. Ooh. So, okay. A couple of things on this. Once this live stream ends, for everybody interested, I'll go ahead and I'll add the full list of four casks. I'll add the list of the whiskeys and the descriptions down in the comments below, or I'm sorry, rather the caption. So tomorrow when the Outturn comes out, just as a point of reference, remember, which ones did you taste in which order? I'll go ahead and put that so you guys can check it out. But this is intense.
Yeah, this is a great way to kick off a week for sure.
Yeah, what do you think? What's your impression of?
So first off, well, I guess I should talk about the nose first. I am definitely getting I can see that kind of malty cereal ness about it. There's definitely that element to it, but there's also what is that? It's gosh, this is off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean it's really invigorating. It's like an oily texture, and it's kind of funny sometimes with really oily whiskey. Even without tasting it, you can sort of just see it, and you see that thick layer of oil, and then just sort of it. Like it's really clings to your nostrils. It's like a really just viscous spirit, which I quite like overall. But go ahead.
It's like a spiced oatmeal almost. I love oatmeal because I'm a little lady inside and I just love eating them. It's like my favorite thing when I go to the UK. It's like I eat myself sick in oatmeal and all of that stuff. So I'm getting that with cinnamon. There's some coriander in there, but then there's a mild sweetness. So it's like a big bowl of oatmeal for me with spices and a big dollop of jam in the middle. This is good. And I was going to say, the first thing I got when I tasted this was the mouthfeel. This has a great viscosity to it.
Yeah.
Like beautiful, just full coating of the palate, like every nook and cranny, and it just clings and just sits there. So it's beautiful mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Taste it again.
Oh man, Carrie Baldwin says my first bottle ever was a 1.180. That's lucky. Justin Izzo says never actually tried a bourbon cask one. There have been a few recently, but they're just not many to begin with overall. So it's a rare treat, I would say, and it's certainly different from what you get from the distillery. James Logan says I'm drinking 1.209. Lucky guess. Wow, everybody with their ones just.
I know.
Anyway.
But there is that, you do definitely get that spice. I feel like with this flavor profile, I do always find that the spice like kind of concludes right at the very tip of my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And this does the same thing. So it's like this experience all over your palate, and then all comes forward to the tip of your tongue, and it just ends on like a very, that spicy and dry note. And I like this.
Yeah. It's funny because initially I commented on how intense it was, but as I'm going back, I haven't added any water, and the ABV is 59.3%. So we're pushing 60%. And usually with a young whiskey like this, the combination of youth and ABV, high ABV, makes for like a really intense tasting experience that to me takes a lot of water, requires a lot of water. But this is oddly approachable. I don't know. Maybe it's me and my mood and on Monday and of a work day, but but I also think it's something that you wouldn't really see on the shelf. Like this is not a commercially viable whiskey. It's so unique and intense, and reminds it to me. It tastes like walking into a distillery. It just smells like fermentation. You smell the grain. Yeah, Serial Killer is the name.
Serial, yeah. So 1.216 Serial Killer. Do you want to read the tasting notes?
You go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So it says a vibrant wee monster. It's my favorite word. A vibrant wee monster full of spiky spices, prickly peppers, and a soft, gooey citrus, a citrus fruity core, balanced by soft petrichor notes.
Nice.
So that kind of after the rain smell.
Oh, that's funny. I've never actually articulated that aroma. Like at post rain, I've never really thought about it, but it's something that growing up, I've always loved that.
Yeah, petrichor.
Petrichor. Okay, that's what that is.
It's like that other 4 point. I have it somewhere in here. Emanating petrichor that we bottled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
4 points something 15.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Not only do I get like this, amazing experience with whiskey and get to taste all of these great things, I learn a lot of new vocab words that maybe I would have never learned before. So
yeah,
on the Society for Educating in All Ways.
Yeah, so a lot of people, everybody in their one. So Tommy B2511, Tommy says, I picked up 1.213, fantastic cask, looking forward to another. Les says 1.192 syrup sponge in a lumberjack's pocket. The bottle that convinced me to join SMWS. All right, Shrine finally got in. Welcome, Shrine. Matthew Park says, hello, everyone. Love watching and keeping up with SMWSA. Not a member yet, though. Which membership option do you like best? I mean, there are a few different. I mean, we tasted a couple, and I think we'll be coming back. There are 3 different. Well, right now you can join with just this base membership, but you could pair a bottle of whiskey and save on that. But what you don't see on that we're offering right now is if you actually buy a base membership or order a membership on our site, I should say, you get a $50 gift card towards any bottle. So technically, if you order a membership, tomorrow, you can get a gift card, and then you can apply this to any of these bottles. So technically, it's like every bottle right now, and that's valid through the end of this month, just to help out while everybody's stuck at home, turning to the whiskey as a little sign of breaking free. But so technically any bottle, so anything we taste tonight, just think about it that way. Hey, you get a $50 gift card if you're a new member after you join. So, and it comes via email. Anyway, I don't want to take away from that, but good question, Matthew.
So we do have in the bundles where you do get the membership and the bottle, there are some really good bottles in there.
Yeah.
Right now. Really good ones. So if you have any questions about it, you can just pick up the phone and you can give me a call, and I'll be happy to walk you through those.
So this was good. This is a good start. Serial Killer. What's your final sort of thought of it before we move on?
I mean, it's definitely a full package whiskey. It has great mouthfeel. It has a full sensory experience from nose to finish. And it is unusual to this little ex-bourbon number, but I like this a lot. Again, it's just the delivery. It literally just clings flavor to every little nook and cranny of your palate, and I love that in a whiskey. It like sticks with you. It's hearty, like oatmeal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way. The hearty is a good way to put it. Like, I definitely am with you on that. It's going back to what I said earlier. It's not something you'd find on the shelf. It's not like a classically refined whiskey. It's a real characterful or purposeful, strong, bold character. Kind of slaps you in the face a little bit, but I don't know. With each sip, there's more and more, and I'm finding that it's more complex. And so, yeah, and I love that in a whiskey.
It keeps you interested. It's not kind of like a one-trick pony. There's a lot happening here, and as you let it sit in your glass, and as you take your second or your third sip, you're just getting more and more character and more flavor, and it's opening up and really kind of showing you what it's made of. So yeah, this is fun. Are you gonna add water to it?
I think real quick I'm gonna add a drop, just because I talked so much about how I think it's important to do that the other day, and I feel like I have to. But I'm really enjoying it without water. It's really.
Too. I'm trying to get better at adding water to my whiskeys.
No, you do it however you want.
Just to teach myself. Oh, see, changes
the profile for sure.
Big time. I feel like it's more fruit forward with water.
Oh, really?
Very vibrant, fruity, ness on the nose.
Yeah, I get like a lot of ginger. I mean, maybe it's just me, but like it is still that dry, like spicy and dry flavor profile. I get the dryness to it, and that spice it's zesty.
I'm getting more like apple pie.
Oh.
Apple pie, like that kind of fruit.
Well, this is a good example. I mean, sounds like some of this, what we're tasting is similar, but a lot of it's also different. And that's just a classic example, I think, why Jen and I are doing this together, because if it's just one of us tasting, we might have a very different experience from you, when you go try it yourself. So you get a lot of the apple pie, you get more of the ginger.
Yeah, it's like on the nose, at least. Palate-wise, I feel like the water actually brings out more of those spicy, characteristics with the water. But on the nose, I'm definitely getting more of those like apple pie, green apple, kind of bright, warm notes.
Oh yeah. Tom asks, what are the difficulties in getting one flavor profile versus another? I mean, I think perhaps some flavor profiles are more popular, but overall, I don't know. Do you see much of a difference in terms of what members are gravitating towards? I feel like everybody has their own palate, and
yeah, I mean, we definitely have members who get excited when they see one of the 3 green peated profiles, or some people really are into the oily and coastal. But I feel like overall, it's a good variance. I think people are genuinely curious about whiskey, so they pick and choose from all different flavor profiles. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier how like the spicy and dry is something you were not as interested in until more recently, and
right.
Yeah, I've definitely opened up. I've changed in my preferences always. Like it's seasonal, or every year I don't know, different interests. So
it's like music, I guess. Changes with your mood or seasons, But yeah, this flavor profile is surprising me the most so far. Yeah. So excited. So again, just to recap, 1.216 serial killer. Don't know if you can kind of see, it's kind of washed out. Sorry. One of 220, or there's 222 bottles of these were made at 59.3% and 8-year space side ex-bourbon. So this is a fun one.
Yeah, it looks like 60 bottles in the U.S. That's the printed allocation, and minus this one, obviously. So it's actually less, since we try to reserve everyone for members as possible. But I would say it's probably 59 after this one. Of course, we had to open for you today. So obviously, limited. So again, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, it'll be coming out. But anyway, good start.
Right. Yeah, that was a good way to whet my palate. So, ready for number 2?
Where are we going next here? Ooh.
So we are going to go to a little 15-year ditty.
15-year ditty. Nice.
I don't know if I want to give too much away, or
Yeah, reveal it. I mean, I would say just reveal it.
Okay, so I don't have the bottle here in front of me, unfortunately, but it is 7.228, which is a 15-year little number, and we'll reveal more after we taste it.
Okay, sure.
We'll try something different this time.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So
7.228.
7.228. I will tell you what it's called and what flavor profile we're in, and then we'll go from there. So it's the name of the bottle is It With Nettles. Nettles like the plant, N-E-T-T-L-E-S. And this is in our sweet, fruity, and mellow flavor profile. And that's all I'm telling you.
Who talks first? You talk first, or I talk first? Oh, you can start. I'm formulating my own opinions.
I wasn't even finished letting it sit in my palate.
I'm a little trigger happy. You were talking and I was already sipping it. I should be more aligned. Sorry, guys.
Ooh, this is summery to me.
Summer, yeah. There's there's a nice floral and herbal note. It's I don't know. Sorry,
I get a honeysuckle on this. Palate wise, definitely grassy. I'm just thinking being a kid, and I grew up in this little town in South Carolina, and we had these huge honeysuckle bushes, firehouse, and tasting that makes me think of that moment, playing in the woods in our house, with this big honeysuckle bush next to us, and that's what this tastes like. So yeah, compared to the first one, it's the first one was so bright and punchy and in your face. It's here I am. I came, I saw, I conquered. This is a bit more of a complex, sort of more subtle, requires a bit more thought, to sort of get in. For sure. But this one is, I will tell you, this one's at 59.4% ABV. So pretty close to the first one was, so we're, pretty close as far as ABV goes from the first to second, but the first one was definitely more aggressive to me, and more upfront and vibrant as far as ABV kind of delivery goes. This one, maybe that's because we have a wet palate at this point, but yeah. Definitely, there's a waxiness to this. I don't know. I gotta taste it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. 15 years, and what's the ABV on this one? This is got to be equally high.
59.4.
59.4. Okay, so yeah, it's actually higher than the last ones. I think
just a little, but I don't feel like it is it doesn't drink as high as the first one to me.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I think sometimes it's funny, and please chime in if you guys know more about the sort of the science behind it. But with age, I feel like the alcohol or ABV becomes generally more approachable. So this being a 15-year-old, almost twice the age in terms of maturation of the first one we had, is even more approachable. So that's dangerously approachable.
And it has great mouthfeel too, great viscosity on this one as well. But I'm definitely getting just that out. It just reminds me of being a kid playing outside. I don't know how else to describe this whiskey. There's a grassiness about it. There's a floral element to it. There's that mild sweetness, a honeyed sweetness. And I think that's why I'm thinking of honeysuckle. But it just reminds me of being outside barefoot in the summer, picking those honeysuckles off of that plant. Sorry, I'm getting into the zone here.
I mean, how do you apologize? I mean, you're in the right place. I also don't have shoes on, and I also like walking through gardens with honeysuckle. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, I have my slippers on at the moment, but
okay.
Happy to kick those off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's soft. It's softer than the first one. I'm just comparing because I think it's easy. We have 4 here to compare with each other, and that's just as a good reference point. It's softer. It's more complex. The complexity is obvious there, but you do have to sort of go in and tackle a little bit more. There's like an herbal note, like a rose water is something that I actually saw that was an official taste, part of the official tasting note. I don't want to jump ahead of you reading it, but I saw rose water and I was like, wow, that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
But like a springtime garden type of thing. Or you said summer,
Yeah, it just reminds me of all of those smells and the feeling. Like I could just imagine this literally takes me back to that moment. There's, that's one of the things I love about whiskey is that it really just has the opportunity to transport you in time, whether it's back to a great memory or you taste something and it reminds you of a trip or a moment in time. I really love that about whiskey. And this one just in particular really does that for me. So, tasting notes?
Yeah.
So, a delicate nose of soft, ripe orchard fruits, Calvados, gooseberry cordial, elderflower champagne, and runny honey. Grassy and nettly zing as well. With a splash of water, there's custard, marsala wine, rose water, blossoms, herbal teas. I don't know what that is, but we're going to skip it. Marshmallow tea cakes and bay leaf. Oh, the bay leaf. I could see that. On like the very back end. To taste it is initially herby and fresh with sharp parsley, herbal toothpaste, and sorrel. Then fruitier with lemon-infused olive oil, fruity waxes, sage, cherry cola cubes, and red apple. Water brings out sweet fruit liqueurs, lemon jelly, candy floss, strawberry wine, honeyed oatmeal, flapjack, and sultanas.
Wow. I think that, the herbal note, it was undefined for me. I was like, what is this herbal note? I don't know if it's sage or what, but just kind of hearing that, I definitely, there's a lot of it there. Like, and more, it's funny. You go back, I can just smell it. Even when it's sitting down here, the glass, you can smell the herbal notes more.
Yeah. I think I was translating that as like a grassiness or like that, I always think of like chamomile and those kind of tall, kind of floral, herbal type of like teas basically. And this, and I think that the fruitiness or like the sweetness that they're mentioning, that like candy floss, I'm getting that on, like that middle part, but I didn't really pin it as candy floss. It was more like almost like a fruit leather type of sweetness for me. It was fun. It's kind of an all over the place one. I like that.
Yeah. And sorry guys, just, I think we've had a good time tasting whiskey. I want to keep up with the comments too. But I was just seeing a few things come in. Adam had said Distillery 7 is an absolute favorite. It was, personally, it was my first society whiskey was actually from Distillery 7, so it's a bit of a nostalgic connection that I have, as well. Jason Coates, good to see you. Jason Coates says, "Whoa, I'm super late. Did I miss anything?" We're on our second whiskey right now, and I don't know. We still have more to come, so you're certainly not too late. Let's drink whiskey. Talked about that. Depends on the barrel, Ben. If it's an active barrel, it rounds off the edge. Oh, probably talking about my comment earlier of just observing that with older whiskey, the ABV or the alcohol seems lower than it really is, or it's more approachable. That makes sense. It probably depends on the barrel. Matthew says, "Hey guys, just got here. Is there any link or link of what's being tasted?" Matthew, actually, all the whiskeys we're tasting right now have not yet been released. They're being released tomorrow. So there is no link to share. You guys are literally the first people to hear of the whiskeys that are coming out. And so well, tomorrow we'll be sending out an email to all our members with the list. Actually, or anyone subscribed to our mailing list. So if you're not subscribed to the mailing list, you can go to smwsa.com and just click subscribe to the mailing, and you'll get the notification right when we release everything as well. That'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, and be ready. These whiskeys have been moving very quickly. And so we can't recommend enough, come 1 o'clock Eastern time, be logged into your account and, be ready to rumble, so to speak.
And Jenna, Lee Morrison asks, can you please provide info on the cask type for 7.228? What's the full breakdown?
So 7.228 is, sorry, I went to grab it. I don't have it here in front of me, is a 15-year. It's a 15-year space side in a refill barrel at 59.4% ABV.
Yeah, refill barrel. So the first one, first fill, was the we tasted was a 8-year-old first fill barrel, also space side. So refill barrel. So the cask has then been shipped over from likely the U.S., used for Scotch whiskey, and then filled with this spirit. So the second time. So yeah, lighter cask influence, but more time in the oak. So it sort of balances out, in my opinion. But anyway.
All right. You pick where we should go next.
No, I think you're doing great. I like this. I like this. I think there's we were talking. Jen and I talked about this before. Like, what order should we go in? Because usually when we do these tastings, there's a clear cut order. You want to sort of separate your palate in a way that doesn't. You want to put your bolder flavor whiskeys towards the end, so it doesn't inhibit your ability to pick out the flavors and aromas of the lighter styles before it. But some of these are like, whoa, there's a lot of we can go to a lot of directions here.
So I think for the next one, then we are going to leave the world of malt.
Oh, yeah.
And go into the world of grain.
Vodka. Oh, sorry.
Vodka. Crap. Yeah. I don't have any vodka. I drank it all. Sorry.
No, just kidding. We're not tasting vodka. Sorry.
I think I have some rum back there. We could talk rum.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract. So where are we going? What's the next one?
All right. So the next one is we're gonna do grain this time. So the next one is a grain whiskey, single grain whiskey, and this is G4.19, and it is called Could Solve Any Problem.
Could solve.
So,
okay.
Yeah, this is an old and dignified flavor profile, and it's up there in age. This is like kind of a milestone birthday that a lot of people celebrate. I'm going to be doing that here in a few years.
Yeah.
Well, like 6 years. So not too far, but so this is a 40-year lowland grain whiskey, and this is at 53.6% ABV. And this is first fill American oak. So this was in American oak or ex-bourbon for 37 years of its life. And then the remaining years were sent into Pedro Jimenez hogshead. So
G4.19 called Could Solve Any Problem.
Solve any problem.
I know of one problem that a lot of us are dealing with right now in our lives. Its ability to solve that problem will be determined, I think, right now. Right. But I'm excited.
I mean, if this could solve that problem, then I'm going to buy all of them.
So we just tasted. So we have just released a 30-year-old single grain that we tasted together, and I think that for a lot of you guys who were tuning into that, and that I think my opinion of single grain whiskey has been opening more and more, like every month. I feel like I'm just going in towards it, and that one set me off. I thought, okay, I'm totally down with a single grain. Yeah. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but I just had a sort of a malt heavy palate. But now I'm finding that, man, these old grains are just phenomenal. But
they really are. Yeah, that one, the one that we tasted, that one really blew my mind. And when we tasted it live, I think my facial expression, like it was totally not what I expected. And so learning about grain whiskeys and what it takes and, the process of grain whiskey, which is pretty extensive, has been, very interesting. So I'm excited to taste it.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Sort of like a dark copper color. The last 3 years of 40 were in the PX Sherry Hogshead, but in American Oak before that. Actually, it's American Oak PX, right? So it's.
I believe so. American Oak. Yeah, American Oak, Pedro Jimenez. Yep.
Just a different profile altogether, the grain, but it's, man, at this age, it's so hard to discern.
I just feel like there's PX adds, even though it's such a sweet fortified wine, it adds such an elegance and depth to a whiskey. There's just nothing like it. And I feel like once you get to a point to where you can really train your palate to pick those notes up, it is just, the experience is really amazing. So.
Oh man. Last says old grain is a bee's knees. I have a 33-year 4. We'll change your mind about grain. Yeah. My mind has been changed recently. Kevin Dutcher says, sorry, I missed it. First fill PX. Yeah, Kevin, first of all, welcome back. It's the last 3 years of 40 years in total were in the first fill PX, American Oak PX. And just a funny little comment about that I'll share. You and Campbell, who's their spirits manager, we were talking about these the finishes that we do to society, and a lot of it is what Ewan and his colleague Kai, the two of them, our spirits team, will go out. They travel the world and they buy these casks. They spend a lot of time in Spain buying sherry casks and then ship them back to Scotland to then transfer the contents of these casks in their warehouse for finishing, just for experimentation and obviously amazing creation. But a lot of times, kind of what a lot of people don't realize, I certainly didn't realize this at first, is that in sherry casks in Spain, a lot of them are actually American oak, or over 90% of all sherry is matured in American oak. Whereas if you see a European or Spanish oak sherry cask, that's usually a cask that has been seasoned with sherry specifically for Scotch whiskey production. So you'll see we list off a lot of American oak ex-sherry casks, PX or Oloroso, and those are actually true bodega casks, meaning they were actually truly used to make sherry entirely before they were used to finish this whiskey. So a little side note about sherry casks and their origin.
You're actually the one who got me into sherry. Like before we worked together, when we were just good old Instagram, pals, you were the one who were
before we were kittens.
Yeah, before we were kittens. You're the one who really encouraged me to explore sherry, and that has been such a game changer for me. And now I try and preach the word of drinking more sherry, because if we people aren't drinking sherry and exploring sherry, then these casks are definitely going to be more limited. But just learning about sherry and teaching my palate and my nose and just my whole the whole sensory experience with sherry has helped me tremendously in whiskey. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was my experience.
Start my sherry journey.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to distract too much from the whiskey, but I'll tell you, I agree. It's I would recommend that to anybody obviously into whiskey. I think everybody's watching is, for me, it was, for years I was tasting and smelling these different flavors and aromas from a whiskey and just thinking, oh, it's so mysterious. What is it that? Then I found that, hey, if I actually started enjoying exploring the contents of the casks that were used before the whiskey maturation, like sherry or even bourbon, I don't know, it put things in a perspective for me. I became a bit more understanding of what was going on, and it wasn't so mysterious, which I guess I missed some of the mystery, but I just felt I had a deeper connection with the whiskey when I had a better foundation of the wine that went into the cask before it. So recommend jumping into sherry. It's a lot of them out there, but so this is PX, Pedro Jimenez sherry.
Yes, Pedro Jimenez, the sticky, gooey, sweet, syrupy, just stick to your ribs kind of sherry. Definitely the sweetest of the varietals. Are you getting a lot of sweetness in this? Background, Fane, and I think that's the intent. Probably when you have at the time this was put in the sherry cask was 37 years old. I think when you have a whiskey that old, you don't want to disrupt. And I'm just speaking for you and who did, and I shouldn't. I'm just speculating that a lot of times when you have a whiskey of that age, you don't want to change it completely. You want to change it a little bit to create something unique. But a whiskey like that age, I don't think you want to douse it in sherry. Right. But I don't know. It's pretty it's definitely present. Yeah. But it's subtle, for me. It is definitely subtle, and I am getting those, very fruit leathery. I always think of fruit roll-ups. I know that's probably not the most elegant way to say fruit leather, but I don't know. I just always think of fruit roll-ups. But I'm definitely getting that. But then there's there is that caramelized, like brown butter, burnt caramel type of almost, I don't know. It's like in the very back of my palate. Trying to describe that, but it's really grain whiskey. I'm sold. If anybody ever offers me a grain whiskey, I am without question going to take it, because I've been really surprised by them. I'm finding they're just more. They're hearty too for me in a way. I guess, and maybe just the past few that I've tasted, I know they typically are a lighter spirit, coming off the still, but the flavor is bold in these whiskeys.
It's so good though. It's so good though.
It's really good.
Les Bishop says, "You guys are killing me I'm sold on all three of these so far. I'm going to be broke. Look, we don't want you to go broke. We just want to share the whiskey love with you. This is fantastic. And
yeah, this is. And can I cruise through the tasting notes real quick?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I have to. It's like ritual.
Do you mind trying to explain like the basis of the tasting notes, like where they come from? I know a lot of members are tuning in, but for anybody who's not a member and was curious as to because it's pretty unique, I think.
So the society sends all this whiskey to my house, and I sit in my living room, in the dark with candles lit, and I taste all of these whiskeys blind, and then I come up with these wild tasting notes, and then we just slap them on a bottle. Not true at all. That's just my dream job. So totally ignore that. But we do have a tasting panel of experts in the field, of people who have been doing this for a long time, many brilliant minds and palates behind our tasting panel. And these whiskeys are presented to them blind, so they have no idea what it is they're tasting. And it has to pass a series of tests, essentially. Like if it doesn't, pass the nose test, then they put it back and they say it's not ready. So it really has to pass all of these tests in order to get bottled. And once it gets to that point, once it, passed the test on the nose and they feel like on the nose, this is beautiful and, it's ready to go, it has to pass the palate test. And once it gets through, this, series of tests, essentially, then they all sit around and taste it. And then they come up with the tasting notes. And there's just a fun way of describing the whiskey. Obviously, whiskey is so subjective, and you might not get, meatloaf and gummy bears on a whiskey that I get or that the tasting panel gets. But this is just an overall really great way to describe what is inside the bottle. Do they want to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the title, well, why don't you read the tasting notes? I'm sorry, I know you want to read them. It's interesting because I had a chance to author one.
Oh yeah, you've been through this process.
No, but it's exactly as you described. I just was lucky when I was over in Edinburgh last year, and it's funny. I mean, you have to taste the whiskey. You get the sample, we set in the lab, and you taste it first, and it's not a high pressure situation, but I mean, it's a very serious thing in the sense that, serious in the sense that I think a lot of the words are pretty funny, and people were having fun doing it.
Yeah, it is fun.
But it's serious in that, we try our best to really find tasting notes that are really unique and actually present. But it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint. So we might get different things. So
tasting notes on G4.19 could solve any problem. A 40-year lowland at 53.6%. First fill American oak for 37 years, and then American Pedro Jimenez. Cask after that to be finished in. So old grain whiskey finished in a good sherry cask could solve any problem. The nose evokes a sunny balcony with apple strudel, sweet olive oil biscuits, sherry, fruit leathers, and ruffle bars. Not 100% sure what a ruffle bar is. Heaven in a glass. The palate is mouth-filling, sweet and dry at the same time. Caramelized banana flambéed in rum, cherry beer, apples, pear drops, buttery toffee, and Madeira cake. The reduced nose has syrup, moist fruit cake with raisins and cherries, roasted hazelnuts, and toasted marshmallows. The palate, now sweet Madeira wine, chocolate, cassia bark, and a bourbon liqueur. After 37 years in ex-bourbon wood, we transferred this into an American oak Pedro Jimenez hogshead.
Oh, nice. I believe, so ruffle bars are sort of like this chocolate, raspberry, and coconut chocolate bar, which, so maybe I get some of that. Maybe from the PX sherry gives that sort of raspberry note to it.
Raspberry, yeah, I could definitely see the raspberry element to that.
Yeah.
But this is a treat. I feel like the last two, actually there's really been 3 big grain whiskey experiences I've had with the society, and they've all really just kind of blown my mind. And I love that that's why I got into whiskey, because I had my mind blown. So they've been a treat. So don't miss on them.
Christopher Slatz says, I'm new to SMWS and loving these virtual tastings. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Christopher. Glad it's helpful. And, obviously submit any questions you want. We'll try to be as much help as we can. Kevin McComber says, what's generally the pass fill ratio for whiskeys the tasting panel tastes? don't have a specific answer, but I will tell you, it's not so much about, there's a lot of layers of testing before it even these samples make it to the tasting panel. Our spirits manager, Ewan Campbell, he gets samples from our warehouse just in Western Scotland, just outside of Glasgow. And what he does is actually he will pour all the samples and just nose them first. And just scoring based on nose, if something doesn't score at least an 8 out of 10 on nose, he won't even taste it. And so there's a first layer. So that will eliminate, I don't want to throw a number out there, but a big majority of whiskeys are just not ready. So they won't even pass Ewan's nose test. And then he has to taste them. I would say probably you're looking at, single digits at some times. I think it depends, obviously, and every batch is different. But I've heard there are times where it's like a single digit pass rate. And others are just not ready. I think that's the whole thing, is that whiskey's always maturing and it's just waiting for the right time. So that's sort of an open-ended and undirect answer. I think it depends, obviously, on the selection, the samples that are at that given time. But it's a pretty low pass rate, based on what's good enough to be bottled. So
I like that it goes through all of these. That it's just a nose test off the guard. Like it has to pass that first before we even can move on to the next step. So.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I feel like if I had a whiskey that had a great palate but it didn't have a good nose.
Yeah.
I mean, as a consumer, as myself, I wouldn't want to buy that. Yeah, I would be thinking like, oh, it's a great palate, but the nose is off. Like that would, right. I think it's important.
So. All right, so we have one more.
So okay, super excited.
So again, that was our 40-year grain. G4.19 could solve any problem. And so the last one, we're going to stick with sherry on this.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to malt, but we're going to stay within the realm of sherry.
Yeah, give us the full scoop. What's going on here?
I'm going to keep it all for myself.
The suspense is real. All right.
So this is an 11-year Highland in a first fill butt, Oloroso. And this is at 59.6% ABV. And this is called Muscle Toned Heft and Punch. There are 609 of these available. Don't know if you can kind of see it.
Yeah. We have Muscle Toned Heft and Punch. Love that name. 28.43. So
28.43.
So red. So the red label, deep rich and dried fruits, which is.
Ooh. Just opening it. This is, I haven't tasted it, but just out of the bottle, you get intense aromas.
Jenna has the bottle. I have this, and I'm not asking you for you to feel sorry for me, but this is a moment of envy because I feel like after this is gone, I'm gonna be calling you up. Like, all right, okay. So Muscle Toned Heft and Punch. All right.
Heft and Punch.
What's your first impression? Oh, let me show this.
Just on the nose. I mean, the color is beautiful. When I was pouring it into my glass, I was like, oh my goodness, the color on this is beautiful. I mean, that is like, just the look of this makes me think of Ron Burgundy. Just, leather-bound books and yeah, the nose on this is beautiful. It's very, again, when I opened the bottle, it was just a big burst of those beautiful, just sherry, leather, just old book, just burst of, just all kinds of that stuff going up my nose. This is really beautiful.
Yeah. So what we have here is a proper, like a sherry bomb, a term that's the term sherry bomb is used to describe the style of whiskey that's matured exclusively in sherry cask. I actually, I don't know if there's an official definition of what a sherry bomb is, but I always also thought that a sherry bomb is like a really intense one, not necessarily like a reduced ABV, elegant sherry whiskey, but like a real proper bomb, and this is 11 years old, full term, first fill Oloroso. So entirely, so straight had sherry was dumped, then 11 years, this was created, 59.6% ABV, which is just, we don't see a lot of first fill, full term Oloroso butts.
Right. It is leggy.
And just to give you an idea, I don't think you can see this, but whenever it's funny because it's almost like when you pour some sherry in the glass or high sherry content whiskeys, there's this residue. Like it's cloudy. The glass itself is cloudy. Like it's creating this residue. That's just the thick influence. Oh man, look at those legs.
Yeah, this is.
Let's see what they're like. Yeah.
This is a thick, leggy.
Some muscle tone. Cheers. So this is our fourth and final of the tomorrow's mid-month outturn. So cheers. I'm excited.
I just want to keep smelling it.
Oh man. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a sherry bomb. I mean, that's the most. It's the thickest whiskey we've had for sure. Oh, I've had it in a long time.
I was gonna say this is the thickest, gooeyest whiskey I've had in a long while. Wow. All right. Whew. So what are you getting?
Well, it's funny because we had the whiskey we had before it was finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry, and this is full term 11 years in Oloroso sherry, and it's really not. There's nothing in common. They're just so different. And sure, sherry was used, but Oloroso sherry, PX is fruity, like prune juice, sticky sweet.
Yeah.
Oloroso is like nutty and dry and sort of like these Christmas spices. It's herbal. Like there's like the classic clove. I got like a little bit of basil. I don't know. It's odd, but it's just there's so much. It's like a very rich. You call it Chris. You said for everybody who was here from the beginning. Jenna said this is like Christmas. Tasting these whiskeys. This is like a Christmas time dram in April. Yeah.
This is like, but I get a lot of like. I imagine being in like a cabin, like in the woods, and it's like kind of gray and dark outside and like wet, and I'm like cozy in a big leather chair by a fire, and I'm like reading some old vintage book. Like my room here is chock full of vintage books because I love vintage books. The smell of them, the feel of them, like I feel like I could just be in like a beautiful room full of books with a fire in a big leather chair, like totally cozied in, drinking whiskey. Like this sets a scene 1,000,000,000%.
Yeah, I mean, this is wow. Yeah, it's a full blown sherry bomb. It's interesting because so this is a Highland whiskey, and not every whiskey from every region is the same. I know we did our master classes last weekend. I know a lot of you guys tune in on that. About Jenna did the Highland master class and talked a lot about the Highland region, and Zach followed up with the space side. And I think fundamentally there are some differences, and I think this distillery here does a good example of a traditional Highland distillery, which is sort of big, grassy, sort of rolling hills. And so you combine that with the influence of this hearty sherry with the spicy notes and the nuttiness. It's what's it called? It's called muscle tone, heft, and punch. Like that's spot on.
It really is.
It's an intensely flavorful, bold whiskey.
Yeah, and I just read too in the tasting notes. I'll read in a second. Espresso was one of the flavor notes that they used on this, and I can see that. It has that little bit of dryness almost that you would get, or like that bitter kind of dryness that you would get from an espresso. And so I can find that now. This is wild.
Oh man.
All right. Tasting this.
Yeah.
I gotta read these because these will be fun. All right, so I'm gonna read them from the bottle. So this says raisins and molasses cake from Madeira, cinder toffee, espresso, dried figs, dark chocolate, coconut, and oak. A great after dinner dram.
Yeah, I'm digging this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time and a place for it, for a big sherry bomb, and I think this is spot on. And I really like it because a lot of sherry bombs are like really fruity and really sweet, but this one has it's this really sort of more earthy undertone. Mm-hmm. I think works really, really well for Oloroso sherry. I think it's just well balanced. Oh man, yeah. I'm like, I sit it down. I'm just like looking at it. You know, not even. I'm not drinking. I don't even know that. I was just looking at it right now, thinking, oh, hold on.
Yeah, this is a really just. I don't know. It just tastes so mature and exotic in a way, and um, it really just sets a scene. This is a full act kind of whiskey.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So,
Mayor says, you're saying my favorite words, Oloroso Sherry. 2 words. Tom Smith asked, Ben, how much sulfur is coming through? So,
yeah.
you know, it's funny. So sulfur, just on that, to Tom's question about sulfur, you know, sulfur is a common note that you can get in sherry whiskey. And the original reason why that is, and I think for the most part still plays through today, is when you take these casks from Spain, you have to preserve, I mean, the wine, the inner lining, the wine that's soaked in the oak can spoil. So what they would do is they would put the cask essentially over a sulfur candle, and that would burn and act as sort of a bonding preservative for the transportation to the UK, so, to Scotland. So a lot of times sherry, the sulfur note will carry through. And I think I've learned that some people are more intolerant or tolerant of sulfur, that note, than other. I've noticed it in some, but I don't have a high sulfur intolerance, or like it's not something that really I notice right away. So I want to clear that up, because we all sort of knows or approach it differently or react to it differently. So if I say, oh, there's not a ton of sulfur, some of you guys might taste it and think, oh shit, there's a lot. But actually, I really got the earthy undertone of the spirit more so than that. So for me, I don't know, are you picking that up?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting those more like mossy, kind of like damp wood undertones. That's the earthiness that I'm tasting in this. It's a very like, I don't know, like in the Pacific Northwest. Like it's just a very, I like the earthiness. I love that flavor, component in a whiskey. Like any whiskey that is earthy, I dig. That is like right up my alley. But I don't get a huge, maybe I'm not that sensitive to sulfur, but I'm not getting that in this whiskey.
Yeah, it's hard. Your word from the first whiskey was hearty, which I thought really applied to that first one. And this is hearty in a different way, but I'm not getting a ton of it. But I'm with you too, because I think there's a time and a place where you just want like the perfect whiskey where everything's spot on. But more often than, and this is my personal opinion, guys, so don't quote me on this, or don't feel good or bad if you agree or disagree. But more often than not, I really like to celebrate imperfection with whiskey. Like it's just, we're all human and like we're imperfect, and so or if you're into music, or I like a little distortion in my rock and roll. Like I like a little heft. It doesn't have to be so clean and perfect all the time.
Yeah,
I think it gives a character. Sulfur kind of brings some of that out, but there's a little distortion in this one, but it's perfectly rough and tough.
Yeah, but it's definitely kind of like stick to your ribs kind of meal.
Yeah,
I'm about it. I don't think I have anything like this in my whole whiskey collection. Nothing that is like this, just like balanced and hearty and like, I don't know. This is special. I think this is my favorite of the 4.
Oh,
I'm gonna go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
This really got me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I have a favorite, just because, but I'm looking back and thinking about these. It's that I did taste 2 of these beforehand, and I have different opinions now than I did before. Either maybe because the bottle's been open longer, they've had time to breathe, or maybe it's just my mood on this Monday, sort of a late afternoon. But it's definitely the most obvious in your face type of punch. Oh, man, set that one up. Muscle Tone Heft and Punch is the name. So yeah, that's it's a big and bold one. Yeah,
it is. And usually for me, like these kind of big sherry bombs, sometimes, I don't know, they don't catch me like this one has. This one has just, I don't know, there's something very special about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. Okay. I got a little carried away with that one. Sorry if we've been ignoring the comments. And Matthew Park says my mouth is watering listening to you both talk about this one. I had to pull out the closet whiskey so I could think of I have tomato PX sherry finish. Very nice, Matthew. Yeah, our intention is not to take your money. It's to offer you good whiskey, but also make you salivate. I think that's part of the goal, because we just all love whiskey, all in the same here. But this has been, yeah, so different all across the board.
Yeah, very different. Very, kind of crazy journey we took today on a Monday.
Do you want to run through, Jen? Okay, so that concludes the mid-month Outturn preview tasting coming out tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Do you want to, just for a quick run through, I know a lot of you guys were coming in different times.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, once this goes live, once it's reposted to YouTube, I'll go ahead and in the caption below, I'll put the full list of the casks and the timestamps as to when we started tasting them. But
yeah, so the first one we tasted was 1.216 Serial Killer. It's an 8-year Speyside first fill barrel ex-bourbon at 59.3% ABV. So Serial Killer 1.216. And then we went to 7.228. That is Split with Nettles. And that is a 15-year Speyside Lassie. Refill barrel at 59.4% ABV. And then we left the world of malt and went to the world of grain to G4.19 Could Solve Any Problem. And that is 37 years in ex-bourbon and then 3 years in I believe there was American Oak Pedro Jimenez Hogshead. And that was, I can't remember the ABV on that one. I think it was 59 point.
Let's see, 53.6%.
Okay.
Yeah, which is high it's great for a 40-year-old.
40 years.
Like, yeah.
And then the last one we ended on was 28.43 Muscle Toned Heft and Punch. And this is an 11-year Highland in a first fill ex Oloroso butt. And this is at 59.6% ABV. And
nice. I haven't gone to the gym in about 6 weeks since I've been quarantined, and this is the one way I can actually feel strong is drinking the Muscle Tone Heft and Punch. I'm certainly not feeling it.
Yeah, those are a treat.
Yeah. So thank you all. And I apologize. We didn't reveal prices, of course, but just the first one I'll mention. So the first one, Serial Killer 1.216 is 105. And Tom, thank you. Tom was commenting below, but 1.216 was 105. This is before shipping and tax, of course, but 7.228, Say It With Nettles. Second one was 125. The 40-year-old grain, G4.19, Could Solve Any Problem, is 370. And Muscle Tone Heft and Punch, which is Cask 28.43, is 110. So overall, I think those are all, for what they are, great value. Of course, I think we're biased in saying that. But I do believe that I think for those of you who are ordering these, you'll probably taste those and agree with us at that point too. That's sort of a name of ours, but fantastic. I mean, I think it was a fantastic lineup, and yeah, thank you all for joining. And I guess we should mention that you've probably seen, if you've seen the email, if you subscribe to our mailing list, on Friday we'll be doing. Jen and I will be joined by our colleague Zach, who I think some of you saw from his masterclass last Friday here on YouTube. The three of us will be sitting down. We'll be offering sort of our tips and tricks for tasting whiskey and sort of debunking some of the myths that people might tell you of how to do certain things. And we won't hint at anything. There's a lot of misinformation. And so I think we just want to offer our advice from our experience. Again, just our own opinions. And I think the collective, the three of us, will probably have some different opinions to share. And so, I think we can send an email out, but if you haven't seen that, if you'd like to submit some questions to us, we'll go ahead and review those in advance and make sure we can address those. All you have to do is email them to info@smwsa.com. That's info@smwsa.com. Any questions you have about how to taste whiskey, like how much water do I add? We'll be trying to address all these things as we can. But if there's specific questions that you'd like us to answer, shoot us an email and we'll do it. Otherwise, just if you comment in the chat, we'll try our best to address them. But as well. So anyway,
tomorrow for the Outturn, it goes live at 1:00 Eastern time. So again, if there are certain bottles that you are after, just be sure you're logged into your account come 1:00 so you can be ready to get those. And if you have any questions, you can send us an email, or you can give us a call on the phone, and myself or Ben or colleague Zach or Brianna will pick up the phone, and we're happy to help.
Yeah. So our team line, I mean, the number is 646-844-1154. I'll put it down. I don't remember our phone numbers, but yeah, our member services team, which is Jen and myself, and 4 of us in total, will be answering the phones. And so, yeah, we can, as Tom mentioned, I saw in the comments just asking about shipping and everything. We can hold bottles and pair them together for a limited period of time. That'll help you save on the shipping cost. And also, we're just here to offer recommendations based on your palate. So we'll talk to you about it. But anyway.
All right.
That was good. I'm really done with this. My Monday is just like went from here to here. Like I'm just
instantly.
This is really good whiskey. So thank you all for making this possible, and we'll keep doing this. It sounds like it's been helpful, and so we'll see you on. Well, I guess if you don't call us tomorrow for the Outturn, we'll see you here on Friday.
On Friday, yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Lunch.